The Ramayana. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit of Valmiki. Edited and published by Manmatha Nath Dutt, 1891. Ramayana. Ayodhya Kanda. Section 106. On Rama having stopped after speaking these pregnant words, the virtuous Bharata addressed the righteous Rama attached unto his subjects in an excellent speech on the banks of the Mandakini, saying, O vanquisher of foes, who is there in this world like unto thee? Pain doth not afflict thee, nor doth pleasure exhilarate. Thyself the exemplar of even-aged people, thou referest to them on doubtful points of morality. Living like unto dead and existing like unto non-existing, what shall make a person that hath attained this intellectual state grieve? O Lord of men, he that like unto thee, understands the nature of the soul and its environment coming by any calamity, ought not to despond. Thou resemblest, O Raghava, the God in strength, and art magnanimous, and truthful in promise, and knowest everything and art endued with intelligence. Calamity, however unbearable it may be, should not overpower a person like thyself, furnished with such virtues and cognizant of life and death. The sin, that in my absence from home hath been perpetrated by my mean-minded mother, doth not find favor in my sight. Be thou therefore propitious to me. I am bound by the fetters of religion. For this it is that I do not, by a severe penalty, slay my wicked mother deserving of chastisement. How, having sprung from the Dasaratha of righteous deeds and born of immaculate race, and knowing virtue and vice, can I commit such a reprehensible action? Dasaratha is our superior, of meritorious acts, aged our king, a departed spirit, and our father. It is on account of this that I do not censure our father, who is a deity unto us. O cognizant of virtue, what virtuous person conversant in morality, should, seeking the pleasure of his wife, commit such a sinful act devoid of both righteousness and interest? Creatures, as their end approaches, lose their sense. This ancient adage has been illustrated in the world by the course the king has taken. Do thou, intent upon bringing about good, redeem the wrong that hath been done by our sire through anger, ignorance and recklessness. The son that repaireth the wrong done by his father, by acting contrary to the latter, is in this world considered really a son, but not he that acteth otherwise. Be thou that real son of the monarch. Do thou not approve the action of thy father, since what he has done is divorced from righteousness and is blameworthy. Do thou rescue all these, Kaikeyi, myself, my father, our friends and adherents, and the whole body of the citizens as well as the inhabitants of the provinces. Where is the forest? And where is Kshatriya morality? Where are matted locks? And where is thy government of the country? It behoves thee not to act in such an untoward way. Even this is the first duty of a Kshatriya, viz., getting oneself installed, by means of which, O highly wise one, he can compass the government of the people. What base Kshatriya, setting aside this indubitable morality, resorts to a dubious and inauspicious course, which should be followed by the old alone. But if thou be bent upon practicing this austere morality, do thou undergo this trouble, after having righteously ruled the four orders. O thou cognizant of morality, those versed in duty say that of the four modes of life, the life of the householder is the foremost. Why then dost thou wish to renounce the same? I am inferior to thee in learning, in position, and in birth. How can I then govern the earth, thou existing? void of sense and quality, a boy, and inferior to thee in point of years, I, deprived of thee, cannot live. O thou cognizant of morality, do thou, along with thy friends, according to thy proper morality rule this entire ancestral kingdom rid of its thorns and enjoying tranquility. Even here, O thou cognizant of the mantras, let all the subjects and the Ritvijas with Vasishtha, versed in the mantras, install thee. Having been installed, go to Ayodhya for the purpose of governing it, having with our assistance conquered thy enemies by thy strength, like Vyasa conquering his foes with the help of the Maruts. Having freed thyself from thy threefold depths, do thou govern me, repressing thy foes, and propitiating thy friends with every gratification. O noble one, today let thy friends rejoice in consequence of thy coronation. Today let those that intend to do thee harm, being frightened, fly to the 10 cardinal points. O foremost of men, wiping out the disgrace of my mother, do thou emancipate our sire from sin. I beseech thee with bent head. Be thou merciful unto me, unto all our friends, and, O great Lord, unto all creatures in general. But, if disregarding my solicitations, thou went from here to the forest, I shall go along with thee. Although thus besought and propitiated by Bharata with bent head, that lord of the earth, Rama, possessed of strength, established in the words of his father, did not decide for going. Witnessing that wonderful firmness in Raghava, the people were at one and the same time delighted and depressed. They were aggrieved because he would not go to Ayodhya, they rejoiced on seeing his firm resolution. Then the Ritvijas, the citizens, and their leaders, and the mothers with their senses lost and with tears in their eyes, extolled Bharata as he was speaking thus, and, bowing down unto Rama, they directed their solicitations together. Section 107. As Bharata was again speaking in this strain, his graceful elder brother, having been highly honored, answered Bharata in the midst of his relatives, saying, having been born as a son unto Dasaratha, foremost of monarchs, by Kaikeyi, this speech of thine is worthy of thee. O brother, formerly when our father espoused the hand of thy mother, he promised her the kingdom as her marriage portion. Then, on the occasion of the war between the gods and the Asuras, that master, the king, well pleased with her, being besought, granted her a boon. Having been thus promised, that virtuous lady, thy illustrious mother, O foremost of men, asked for 2 boons of the king, viz., thy enthronement, O best of men, and my banishment. Thus besought by her, the king conferred on her the boon. And, thou foremost of men, I have been enjoined by my sire to stay in the woods for 14 years, in consequence of his having granted her the boon. And, having, in company with Lakshmana and Sita, come to the lone forest, I in humble guise am staying in the truthful speech of my father. Thou too, thou foremost of kings, shouldst in the same way speedily render our father truthful, by getting thyself installed. O Bharata, for my sake, do thou free that lord, the king, from his debts. Do thou, O thou cognizant of morality, deliver our father and gladden thy mother. O child, we hear that in Gaya, formerly the famous Gaya, engaged in a sacrifice, chanted this Vedika hymn, for pleasing his departed ancestors, since a son delivereth his sire from the hell named Put, a son goeth by the appellation of Putra, he protecting his departed ancestors in every way. One should wish for many sons crowned with qualities and versed in various lore, for the chance is that one at least of these may repair to Gaya. O son of the Raghu race, the Rajarshis have delivered their decision on the point. Therefore, thou foremost of men, do thou, O Lord, rescue thy sire from hell. O Bharata, go to Ayodhya, and please the subjects, in company with Satrughna, O hero, and all the regenerate ones. I also, O hero, without delay shall have to enter the forest of Dandaka in company with Lakshmana and Sita. O Bharata, be thou thyself the monarch of men. I shall become the king of kings of deer. Go thou to that foremost of cities with a glad heart. With a glad heart will I enter Dandaka. O Bharata, let the umbrella bearing out the rays of the sun afford cool shade unto thy head. I shall happily seek the dense shade of these forest trees. Satrughna endued with cleverness is thy helper. Sumitra's son is well known as my best friend. We four worthy sons of that foremost of monarchs will keep him established in truth, O Bharata. Let not thy mind despond. Section 108. As Rama, cognizant of righteousness, was thus encouraging Bharata, Javali, best of Brahmanas, addressed him in words divorced from morality, saying, O Raghava, endowed with a noble understanding and leading a life of asceticism, do not suffer thy intellect to entertain inanities, like any low person. Who is whose friend? And to what is one entitled, and by virtue of what relation? And who is such? Since a creature is born alone and dies alone, a person that cherishes his father and mother with affection, must, O Rama, be looked upon as a madman. No individual hath anyone in this world. As on the eve of setting out for another country, a person stays somewhere outside the village he lives in, and the next day goes away, renouncing that abode, even such are a man's father and mother, house and wealth. O Kakuchta, worthy people never bear affection towards a mere abode. Therefore, O best of men, leaving thy ancestral kingdom, thou ought not to abide in the disagreeable forest filled with dangers and difficulties. Do thou get thyself sprinkled in the prosperous Ayodhya. The city expects thee wearing a single woven braid. O king's son, enjoying costly regal pleasures, do thou sport in Ayodhya, like Sakra in the celestial regions. Dasaratha is none unto thee, and thou too art none unto Dasaratha. He is quite other than thy sire, and thou hast no connection with him. Therefore, do thou act as I tell thee. A father is merely an instrumental cause, touching the generation of his child. A father's semen coming in contact with a mother's blood, at the time befitting conception, a person is brought into being. The king hath gone the way he should. This is the nature of all creatures. But thou for naught deniest thyself the manliness of monarchical power. Those that, disregarding interest, are devoted to virtue, do I mourn and not others, for having suffered misery here, they in the end meet with extinction. People engage in ashtaka in behalf of ancestors and deities. Behold the waste of edibles. Doth any dead person feed? If food partaken by one is transferred to the body of another, offer Shraddha unto one going to a distant land, and that shall serve for his provender on the way. Works on morality enjoining, worship, give away, be initiated, observe rites, renounce, have been composed by intelligent persons, for inducing people to be charitable. O magnanimous one, assure thyself there is no hereafter. Do thou remain grounded in the evident, turning thy back on what is beyond our ken, placing in front the intellect of the good, and approved by all, do thou, propitiated by Bharata, accept the monarchy. Section 109. Hearing Javali's words, Rama having truth for prowess, by help of an exceedingly subtle intellect, uninfluenced under the exhortations of that sage, said, "What thou, wishing for my welfare, hast dwelt upon, though wearing the guise of a good action, is really not such, and though appearing to be beneficent, is really calculated to entail misery. The person that, with his sinful acts sticking to him, walketh astray, as well as he that holdeth up unto others different patterns of character from those recommended by Scripture, doth not win honor with the good." One's character, fashioned according to Scripture, shows whether one is high-born or base, heroic or vainly priding himself on his manliness, pure or impure. But by adopting the code of conduct inculcated by thee, a mean character may appear as a noble one bereft of purity may appear pure, an inauspicious individual may seem auspicious, and one of vile ways may appear honest. If I adopt this unrighteous course, calculated to produce confusion of castes, and do acts not recognized by Scripture, I shall, renouncing good, have to reap only evil. Then what man possessed of consciousness and capable of discriminating between right and wrong, shall honor me, given to wicked ways and deserving of universal reprehension? Whose is this course that thou askest me to follow? And by what way shall I attain heaven? By following the present course, which would make me give up my vow. When I have first myself set up desire as my standard of action, the entire body of the people shall follow me, subjects take to the ways that have been adopted by their sovereigns. This eternal regal morality founded in kindness towards the subjects, is verily true. Hence a kingdom is essentially based upon truth, and this world itself is established in truth. Saints and celestials for certain regard truth alone. In this world, a truthful person attains the regions of Brahma. Untruthful persons harass people as much as serpents. In this world virtue, which is said to be the root of everything, is itself established in truth. In this world, truth is the Lord, in truth is established righteousness. Everything hath truth for its basis. No condition is superior to truth. The Veda, which inculcates gift, sacrifice, homa, and asceticism, is based on truth. One protects men, another his family, one is plunged in hell, another is honored in heaven. Why should I not then obey the mandate of my father? My father was of truthful promise and of righteous ways, and with the object of observing his promise, he laid on me this for faithful performance. Having promised to my superior with an oath, I shall never through covetousness or forgetfulness or pride drive the bridge of truth. We have heard that the gods and the Pitris do not accept offerings from one inclined to untruth, or who is unsteady and of volatile faculties. This duty of maintaining truth, whose influence radiates all over one's soul, I certainly find to be the prime one, and this burthen hath, array this, been borne by worthy people. And it is for this that I reverence the same. I abjure that Kshatriya morality which, wearing the garb of righteousness, is in fact impiety, and which is pursued by the low-minded, or the wicked, or the covetous, or the sinful. A person commits a sin by means of his physique, but after he hath accurately cast it in his mind, and he hath also spoken an untruth with his tongue. Thus a sin is threefold. The earth and fame and renown and auspiciousness pay court unto the truthful person. The good follow truth, therefore even truth is to be sought by all. Therefore the seemingly excellent thing that thou, after having well ascertained it, hast said unto me in words informed with reason, thou hadst rather do this, appears to me wanting in nobility. How, after having promised unto my superior this exile of mine, shall I act up to Bharata's words, setting aside those of my superior? I having remained firm in the promise I had made unto my superior, that noble lady, Kaikeyi, became exceedingly delighted. Living in the forest, pure, with regulated fare, I shall, propitiating the gods and the Pitris with fruits, flowers and roots, fulfill my vow. Satisfying the 5 classes, I shall, retaining my simplicity and my religious faith, and being able to distinguish between right and wrong, pass away the term of banishment. Having come to this scene of action, one should do that which is proper. Even Agni and Vayu and Soma reap the fruits of their own acts. Having acquired the appellation of Satakratu, the sovereign of the celestials hath gone to heaven, and, having performed rigid austerities, the Maharshis have attained the celestial regions. Having heard of the reasons, couched in that atheistical speech, which he could not allow to pass without stricture, that one of fierce energy, the king's son, censuring what Javali had said, again spoke, truth, righteousness, prowess, kindness to creatures, fair-spokenness, and worship of the twice-born ones, gods and guests, these have by the pious been styled the ways to heaven. Having duly heard that these are capable of conferring the summum bonum, and also come to the same conclusion by reasoning, Vipras, adequately and completely observing morality with the utmost care, are eagerly desirous of attaining those regions. I blame this act of my father's, viz., that he took for his priest one of perverse understanding, who wrung it by help of such an intellect, who is frightfully atheistic, and who hath swerved from the path of righteousness. As a thief is, so is a Buddha, and know that in this matter, an atheist is in a like predicament. Therefore, such an one, when capable of being punished like a thief for the good of the people, should be punished like a thief, and let no Brahmana ever speak with an atheist. Other Brahmanas than thyself, superior to thee, have, severing this world as well as the next, performed various excellent acts. Therefore those Brahmans, Amen, who have spared life and in other ways practiced morality, and have also given away in charity, performed austerities and served others, performed sacrifices in consonance with Vedas, and principal ascetics engaged in religion, surrounded by the good, possessed of energy, having charity for their foremost attribute, void of envy, and their hearts free from all stain, are honored in this world. When the magnanimous Rama, of undiminished strength, had wrathfully said this, that Vipra with supplications again spoke words fraught with morality and high spiritual truth. I do not speak the language of atheists, nor am I an atheist, nor yet is it true that there is nothing hereafter. On the occasion of things having reference to the next world being performed, I am again a believer, and on the occasion of things connection with this world being taken in hand, I am an atheist once again. O Rama, the time has gradually drawn nigh when for the purpose of making thee turn back, it is necessary that I should speak the language of atheism. But pacifying thee, I have again spoken this, I am a believer. Section 110. Knowing that Rama was wroth, Vasishtha said, Javali note the departure of creatures to the next world and their return thence. Anxious of making thee turn back, he had spoken thus. Do thou now, O Lord of the world, learn the genesis of creatures from me. Water was everywhere. The earth was constructed therein. Then sprang the self-created Brahma along with all the celestials. Having become a boar, he raised up the earth, and along with his sons of subdued souls, created everything. Brahma eternal, existing through all time and incapable of decay, sprang from the sky. From him Marichi came into being, and Kashyapa is Marichi's son. Vivaswat drew his birth from Kashyapa, and Manu from Vivaswat. Manu was formerly known as Prajapati. Ikshvaku is son unto Manu, and this world was first conferred upon Ikshvaku by Manu. Do thou know Ikshvaku as the first king in Ayodhya? The graceful Kukshi is known as the son of Ikshvaku. And, O hero, Kukshi's son was Vikukshi. Vikukshi had the powerful one possessed of exceeding energy for his son. One had the mighty armed Anaranya of high austerities for his son. During the time of that foremost of righteous persons, the monarch Anaranya, drought or famine did not occur in Ayodhya, nor were there any thieves at that time. O mighty king, from Anaranya sprang King Prithu. From Prithu sprang Trishanku of mighty energy. This hero by virtue of his truth-telling went to heaven in person. Trishanku had the famous Dhundumara for his son, and from Dhundumara Juvansya was born. Juvansya's son was the handsome Mandatha, and from Mandatha Susandhi came into being. Susandhi had two sons, Dhruvasandhi and Prasenajit. Dhruvasandhi had the illustrious Bharata, destroyer of foes for his son. From Bharata sprang Asita, to whom sprang these hostile kings as foes, Harhayas, Taljangas and Saswindas, heroes all. Having engaged with them in battle, the king was excited by them. And on the romantic Himamvat, he became engaged in asceticism. It is said that at the time, his two wives were gone with child. There one of the exalted ladies having eyes resembling lotus petals saluted Bhrigu's son furnished with the splendor of a celestial, desirous of having an excellent son. Another administered poison unto the other for destroying her fetus. Bhrigu's son named Chavna was at that time staying in Himamvat. Appearing before the sage, Kahindi saluted him. Thereupon he returned the greeting that had been made by that lady anxious to secure a boon for the birth of a son. Thou shalt, O lady, get a son of mighty soul, who shall be celebrated among men, and who shall be pious and powerful, the perpetuator of his race and destroyer of enemies. Hearing this, that noble lady having gone round him and paid in respect unto the ascetic went to her home and gave birth to a son furnished with eyes resembling lotus petals, and of sheen like that of the inside of a lotus. And because her co-wife had given her poison for destroying her fetus, and as in consequence of this, he had come in contact with poison, he came to be called Sagra. The name of that king is Sagra, who having been initiated in a sacrifice excavated the ocean, frightening the people with the vehemence of his operations. Asmaja is known to have been the son of Sagra. This wicked man, while yet in life, was banished by his father. Asmaja's son was the puissant Anshumat. Dilipa is the son of Anshumat and Dilipa's son is Bhagatha. From Bhagiratha sprang Kakustha, from whom the Kakusthas came to be well known. Kakustha had Raghu for his son, after whom have been named the Raghavas. Raghu's son is the energetic Pravirda, who ate human beings. He is known on earth under such names as Kalmanshhadar, Soitsa. We have heard that Kalmanshpal's son was Sankana, who having been endowed with prowess, found destruction along with his forces. Sankana's son was the beautiful and heroic Sudarshana. Sudarshana's son was Agnivan and Agnivan's, Sairaga. Sairaga's son was Maru, and Maru's Prasushruvas. Prasushruvas' son was the magnanimous Ambarish. Ambarish's son was Nahusha having truth for his prowess. Nahusha's son was the exceedingly virtuous Nabhaga. Nabhaga had two sons, Aja and Suvrata. Aja's son was the virtuous king Dasaratha. His eldest son art thou celebrated under the name of Rama. Do thou receive thy own kingdom and look after the world. Among the Ikshvakus, the firstborn becomes the sovereign. The firstborn existing, an inferior son cannot be installed in the kingdom. It therefore doth not today behove thee to depart from the ever-existing morality of the descendants of Raghu. Do thou rule this earth filled with gems, and furnished with high fame, do thou like unto a father govern her containing many kingdoms. Section 111. Having thus addressed Rama, the royal priest Vasishtha again spoke unto him words fraught with righteousness, saying, Unto a man born there are three superiors, viz., the preceptor, O Kakutstha, and father and mother, O Raghava. O foremost of men, the father begets a person, the preceptor imparts wisdom and therefore is he called a superior. I, O subduer of foes, have been the preceptor of both thyself and thy father. By doing what I say, thou wilt not lose the state of the righteous. These courtiers of thine, these relatives, and these kings, by protecting them virtuously thou wilt not lose the state of the righteous. It doth not behove thee to disregard the words of thy aged and virtuous mother. By doing her bidding thou wilt not lose the state of the righteous. O Raghava, by acting as Bharata, who is soliciting thee, says, thou having the morality of truth for thy prowess, wilt not be frustrated of the state of the pious. Thus sweetly addressed by his preceptor personally, that foremost of men, Raghava, replied unto Vasishtha, seated with him, saying, what his father and mother always do in behalf of their son, and what they effect by way of provision and sleep and clothing and constant sweet speech and sport, is difficult of being repaid. Therefore, what my father, King Dasaratha hath commanded me to do, must not be falsified. Rama having said this, the broad-breasted Bharata, extremely depressed spoke unto the charioteer who was by, saying, O charioteer, do thou speedily spread kusa on the ground here. I will remain near the noble one until he be kindly disposed toward me. Even as a twice-born one deprived of his wealth lieth down at the door of an unrighteous person, eschewing food and in darkness, will I lie down in front of this cottage, until he betakes himself back to Ayodhya. Then with a dispirited heart finding Sumantra looking up to Rama, Bharata himself spread kusa and lay down upon it. To him spoke that foremost of Rajarshis, the highly energetic Rama, O Bharata, my dear brother, what have I done that thou hast down by me? It is a Brahmana who alone can obstruct a person by lying down beside him, but there is no rule by which a member of the military class can lie down in this wise. O best of men, arise, renouncing this difficult vow, and, O descendant of Raghu, do thou from hence take thyself unto that best of cities, Ayodhya. Being seated, Bharata, eyeing the citizens and the inhabitants of the provinces, remarked, what for do ye not solicit the noble one? Thereupon the citizens and the dwellers of the provinces answered that high-souled one, saying, we perceive that the descendant of Raghu says unto Kakutstha what is fit, and this exceedingly virtuous one stayeth by the words of his sire. Therefore we are incapable of suddenly saying anything. Hearing their speech, Rama said, listen to the words of these friends having morality for their vision. And, O scion of the Raghu race, hearing their utterances as regards both thyself and me, do thou decide. Arise, thou mighty armed one. Touch me and then water. Thereat arising, Bharata, having touched water, said, "Ye courtiers, and ye ministers, listen to me. I did not wish for my paternal kingdom, nor did I sway my mother towards obtaining the same, nor did I know that the exceedingly righteous Raghava was to seek the woods. But if he must dwell here, and thus act out the mandate of our father, I also will abide in the forest for 14 years. Astonished at the determination of Bharata, the righteous Rama, eyeing the citizens and the inhabitants of the provinces, said, "Neither Bharata nor I can annul any sale or pledge or purchase effected by our father during his life. Therefore I ought not to accept any substitute for living in the woods, who can but contribute to my censure. Kaikeyi hath spoken what is proper, and my father hath acted well. I know Bharata to be forgiving, and given to serving superiors. Everything in that high-souled one intent on truth appeareth beneficial. Having returned from the forest, I will in company with this brother of virtuous character, become the worthy master of this earth." The king having been made by Kaikeyi to consent to her proposal, "I have done as she told me. Do thou by acting in the way calculated to free that lord of the earth, our father, from the debt of promise, do so." Section 112. Observing the meeting of the two brothers of unparalleled energy, capable of making one's hair stand on end, the Maharshis, struck with surprise, came to the scene. And remaining invisible, the ascetics, siddhas and prime saints admired those brothers, the virtuous Kakutsthas. Blessed is he whose sons these, too cognizant of virtue and having truth for prowess are. Having heard their converse, we are delighted. Then the saints, desirous of the destruction of the ten-headed one, having become unanimous, speedily addressed that foremost of monarchs, Bharata, saying, "Born in an illustrious line, endued with high wisdom, of high character and high fame, thou shouldst accept Rama's words, if thou hast a care for the happiness of thy sire. We wish that Rama may always act truthfully in respect of his father. By virtue of his truth connected with Kaikeyi, Dasaratha hath gone to heaven." Having said this, the Gandharvas, Maharshis and Rajarshis each went to his proper quarter. Having paid homage unto those saints, Rama, possessed of a gracious presence, hearing their words, was filled with joy, and looked lovely with his delightful countenance. But with his frame agitated with emotion, Bharata with joined hands again addressed Raghava in words faltering with feeling, "O Rama, taking into account the morality of this race, it behoves thee to act in accordance with the solicitations of my mother and thine. I do not venture to govern this vast kingdom alone, or please the citizens and the inhabitants of the provinces attached unto thee. And as husbandmen remain expecting rain, our kindred, and warriors and friends and adherents wait in expectation of thee. O exceedingly wise one, accepting the kingdom, do thou place it in the hands of some person. O Kakutstha, whomsoever thou wilt choose for performing this office, will surely prove strong enough to govern the people." Having said this, Bharata fell at his brother's feet, and sweetly addressing him, "O Raghava," solicited him once again. Taking on his lap that sable-hued one furnished with eyes resembling lotus leaves, Rama with a voice like that of a mad swan, spoke unto Bharata, "Thou hast at length attained the mental attitude that is natural and that also comes of the training one receives at the hands of his preceptor. And, brother, thou venturest greatly to protect the earth. Taking counsel with courtiers, adherents and intelligent ministers, do thou achieve grand tasks. Even if beauty forsaketh the moon, or Himamvat his snow, or the ocean overleaps its shores, I shall not forsake the promise of my sire. And, my brother, thou ought not to cherish in thy mind what thy mother incited by covetousness or affection for thee hath done, and thou should act by her as one should by one's mother. When Rama, resembling the sun in energy and like the moon of Pratipat in appearance, had said this, Bharata said unto the son of Kausalya, O noble one, do thou take off thy feet thy sandals adorned with gold. These shall protect what the people have got and secure unto thee what they lack. Thereupon taking off his sandals, that highly energetic one gave them to the magnanimous Bharata. Bharata, bowing down unto the sandals, said, O hero, for 4 and 10 years shall I, wearing matted locks and bark, and subsisting upon fruits and roots, O scion of the Raghu race, expecting thy arrival, remain outside the city, having, O subduer of foes, made over the task of government unto thy sandals. And, O foremost of Raghus, if after the completion of the 14 years, I do not see thee, I shall enter into fire. Promising, so be it, and affectionately embracing Bharata, and also embracing Satrughna, Rama said, do thou protect thy mother Kaikeyi. Do not be angry with her. Both Janki and I conjure thee to do this, O descendant of Raghu. Having said this, he forsook his brother, with tears in his eyes. Then accepting those burnished and garnished sandals, Bharata, versed in morality, circumambulated Raghava, and placed the sandals on the head of an excellent elephant. Then having one by one honored that assembly, and his preceptor and the counsellors, and the subjects and his younger brothers, perpetuator of the Raghu race, steady in his own duty like Himamvat itself, took leave of them. His mothers, with their throats invaded by the vapor of grief, could not from distress of heart say aught unto him. And Rama, also having paid homage unto all of them, weeping entered his own cottage. Section 113. Then taking the pair of sandals on his head, Bharata in company with Satrughna well pleased, ascended the car. And Vasishtha, and Vamdeva and Javali steady in his vow, as well as the ministers, honored on account of their counsels, went before. And going round the charming Mandakini, they went eastwards, circumambulating at the same time the mighty hill, Chitrakuta, and beholding various kinds of beautiful minerals by thousands. Bharata, accompanied by his army, went by the side of the hill. At a short distance from Chitrakuta, Bharata beheld the spot where the ascetic Bharadwaja had built his habitation. Approaching the asylum, the puissant Bharata descended from the car, and the son of Raghu then paid homage unto the saint's feet. Thereat Bharadwaja, well pleased, said, Hast thou, my child, on meeting with Rama, done what it behoved thee to do? Thus addressed by the intelligent Bharadwaja, Bharata, attached to righteousness, answered the former, saying, solicited by our preceptor as well as by myself, Raghava of steady prowess, highly pleased, spoke unto Vasishtha, I would faithfully perform my father's promise for 14 years, for even this is the promise of my father. Thus accosted, the eminently wise Vasishtha, skilled in speech, replied unto Raghava in these pregnant words, Do thou, well pleased, confer on Bharata thy sandals decked in gold. Thereby, O exceedingly wise one, thou wilt be able to protect what the people have and secure unto them what they have not. Thus addressed by Vasishtha, Raghava, facing the east, conferred on me his sandals decked in gold, in order that I might carry on the government of the kingdom. Commanded by the magnanimous Rama, I retrace my steps. I will go to Ayodhya, taking the sandals along with me. Hearing these auspicious words of the high-souled Bharata, the ascetic Bharadwaja said unto Bharata, it is no wonder that Rama hath acted nobly by thee, foremost among men and possessed of an excellent character and disposition, even as water poured out, floweth downwards. Thy father Dasaratha hath become freed from his debts, since he hath a son like unto thee, righteous and attached to virtue. When the ascetic had said this, Bharata with joined palms paid his respects unto that highly wise one, by taking hold of his feet. And after having again and again gone round Bharadwaja, the graceful Bharata went to Ayodhya accompanied by his counsellors. And returning by means of cars and carts, horses and elephants, that army marching in the wake of Bharata, spread wide. And after having crossed the beautiful river Yamuna flowing in waves, they again beheld the river Ganga of auspicious waters. And having along with his friend crossed over that river filled with beautiful waters, Bharata together with his army entered the charming city of Sringava. And from the city of Sringava he went to Ayodhya and again beheld it. And seeing Ayodhya bereft of his father and mother, Bharata burning in grief, said unto the charioteer, O charioteer, behold that Ayodhya, which shone of its splendor and decoration, and plunged in grief, forlorn and silent, doth not appear delightful. Section 114. Arriving by means of a car emitting a low and solemn sound, that lord, the highly famous Bharata speedily entered Ayodhya, ranged by cats and owls, with the doors of the people's dwellings remaining closed, like a night enveloped in darkness, gloomy and invisible, resembling the beloved wife of Rahu's enemy, Rohini, brilliant with the luster of the latter, when she is forlorn in consequence of her lover being afflicted by that planet, like unto a mountain stream shrunk up, having its waters turbid and slightly heated, and its fowls burning in the heat, and with its fishes, alligators and other aquatic animals rendered lean, resembling a flame of fire devoid of smoke and streaming up in golden splendor, next sprinkled with clarified butter, and lastly appearing with its crest extinguished, with armor scattered all round, and sick elephants and horses and cars and standards, and heroes lying dead, in distress, like unto an army in a mighty encounter. Resembling the silent ripples of the ocean raised by the gentle breeze, which array now in the shapes of surges were heaving, brimming over with foam and sending forth roars, like a silent days after the sacrifice is over, without the sacrificial appurtenances, without worthy priests, like unto the wife of a youthful ox, exercised with anxiety on having been forsaken by her favorite ox, staying in distress in a pen, abstaining from fresh grass, like unto a string of new pearls divorced from noble, mild gleaming rubies and other excellent gems, like a star on the expiration of its virtue, moving from its place, and dislodged from heaven, dropping to the earth with its brightness contracted, like a blossoming creeper at the end of spring with maddened drummers suddenly rendered nerveless in consequence of being caught by a forest fire, with her merchants plunged in grief, and her shops and stalls closed, like the welkin covered with clouds, and having its moon and stars hid. Like an unclean, uncovered spot used for drinking, with all the wine drained, and scattered with broken balls, and with the tipplers lying dead, like unto a reservoir with its terrace riven, filled with broken pots, and lying with its pillars crushed, like a long strong bowstring fixed on a bow furnished with nooses, falling off the bow to the ground, being snapped in consequence of the pressure of the arrow, like a mare, suddenly urged on by a rider skilled in battle, lying on the ground, having been slain by the hostile forces. That son of Dasaratha, the beauteous Bharata, while proceeding on his car, addressed the charioteer as he drove that best of cars, saying, "Why do I not hear as formerly the solemn sounds of song and instrumental music spreading on all sides in Ayodhya? And there doth not breathe around the aroma of liquor, or the perfume of garlands, or the incense of aguru and sandal. And on Rama being banished, in this city is not heard the mild neighing of steeds, the rattle of vehicles, the roar of mad elephants, or the mighty clatter of arms. And on Rama having repaired to the forest, youthful folk stricken with sorrow do not enjoy the incense of aguru and sandal, or costly fresh chaplets. And persons bearing variegated garlands do not walk abroad, and no festivities are celebrated in the city stricken with grief on account of Rama. Surely, the grace of the city hath gone away with my brother. Surely, that Ayodhya doth not look beautiful like an autumnal night with showers pouring down. When shall my brother, coming hither like a carnival, gladden all hearts in Ayodhya like rain in summer? And the highways shall be graced with young people elegantly attired and bearing themselves bravely in Ayodhya." Having said this in grief, Bharata in company with the charioteer entered Ayodhya and immediately went to the residence of his father, bereft of that foremost of men, like a cavern bereft of its lion. Seeing the inner apartment shorn of its splendor, like a day deprived of the sun, mourned by the deities, and everywhere unclean, the self-possessed Bharata, moved by grief, began to drop tears. Section 115. Having placed his mothers in Ayodhya, Bharata steady in his vow, kindling in grief, said unto his preceptors, "I shall go to Nandigrama, and therefore greet you all. There I shall suffer all this grief on account of Rama's absence. The king hath gone to heaven, and my superior is staying in the woods. I shall remain in expectation of Rama assuming the reins of government. Verily that illustrious one is the king." Hearing this excellent speech of the high-souled Bharata, the counsellors as well as the priest Vasishtha said, "What, O Bharata, influenced by affection for thy brother thou sayest, is worthy of thee and is highly commendable. Who will not endorse what hath fallen from thee, ever engaged in serving thy friends, established in fraternal love, and who hast entered upon a noble cause?" Having heard the words of the counsellors acceptable and welcome, Bharata said unto the charioteer, "Do thou yoke my car." Then with a cheerful countenance having spoken to his mothers, that graceful one ascended the car in company with Satrughna. Having swiftly ascended the car, both Satrughna and Bharata, right glad at heart, set out. Surrounded by counsellors and priests. And going ahead, all the preceptors headed by Vasishtha proceeded eastwards, in which direction lay Nandigrama. And the forces, filled with elephants and horses and cars, although not called, set out on Bharata proceeding, as well as all the citizens. And ascending the car, the virtuous Bharata attached unto his brother, speedily went to Nandigrama, holding the sandals of Rama on his head. Then entering Nandigrama in a short time, Bharata swiftly alighted from the car and addressed his preceptors, saying, "This monarchy hath been consigned unto me as a trust, and these gold-decked sandals shall carry on the work of government, protecting what the people have and securing unto them what they have not." Then bowing unto the sandals which represented the trust, Bharata burning in grief addressed the entire body of the subjects, saying, "Do ye speedily hold the umbrella over these sandals. These represent the dear feet of the Exalted One. Through these sandals of my superior, will be established the regal morality of the kingdom. This kingdom from love hath been conferred on me as a trust, therefore I shall govern it until Raghava comes. Again speedily putting these sandals on Raghava's feet, I shall behold them with the sandals on. On Raghava coming back, I shall, my burden being cast upon him, making over the kingdom unto him, engage myself in serving my superior. And having rendered unto Raghava the trust in the shape of these sandals, this kingdom, and Ayodhya, I shall be washed from my sin. Henceforth wearing bark and matted locks, and in the guise of an ascetic, the heroic Bharata dwelt in Nandigrama along with his forces. Having consigned all rule unto the sandals, Bharata himself held the umbrella and the chauri furnished with hair. And the graceful Bharata, having installed the sandals of the noble one, always carried on the government in subordination to them. Section 116. On Bharata having returned, while Rama was dwelling in the woods, he noticed a fright among the ascetics, added to a desire to remove to another place. And those ascetics that were living happily in the asylum in Chitrakuta, relying upon Rama for their protection, he found to be wrought up with anxiety. And by means of signs by the eye and contractions of the brow, they, afflicted with fear, were, alluding to Rama, slowly speaking to each other. Perceiving their anxiety, Rama, apprehensive of himself, with joined hands addressed the patriarchal ascetic, saying, O reverend one, do ye find me deviating from the path of former sovereigns, or acting contrary to their practice, which hath perplexed the minds of these ascetics? Have the sages seen my younger brother, the high-souled Lakshmana, do anything from inadvertence that is unworthy of him? Doth not Sita, engaged in serving you, having to serve me, now minister unto you as a woman should? Thereat a certain aged and decrepit ascetic, with his frame trembling, said unto Rama, ever kind towards creatures, where is the falling off of that one of excellent character, engaged in offices of beneficence, more specially with reference to ascetics? This fear arising from Rakshasas afflicts the ascetics because of and they, extremely agitated, converse with each other on the subject. A Rakshasa named Kara, a younger brother of Ravana, hath been harassing the ascetics dwelling in Janasthana. And Drishta, also a fearless and wicked Rakshasa feeding on human beings, and the unrighteous Avalipta, cannot bear thee, my child. As long, my child, as thou hast been residing in this asylum, the Rakshasas have been plaguing the ascetics. And they show themselves sometimes in disgusting shapes, sometimes in horrible and dreadful ones, in various frightful forms capable of frightening folks. And they throw execrable and unclean things among the anchorets, and torment those that happen to come before them. And they take delight in approaching asylums unperceived, and slaughtering ascetics, after having bound them by means of their arms. And on the occasion of sacrifices, they throw away the vessels containing sacrificial articles, pour water on the sacrificial fire, and break vessels containing water. Eager to renounce this asylum infested by those wicked ones, and removing to another place, the sages today have been exhorting me on the subject. And, O Rama, array this, those wicked ones have slain ascetics. Therefore we would renounce this asylum. Not far from here is a picturesque wood abounding in fruits and roots. Thither shall I betake myself together with my own folks. Tara shall also annoy thee. If thou think it proper, go hence in company with us. O Raghava, although thou art vigilant, able, and in all ways capable, it would be unpleasant for thee to dwell here now in doubt. When the anxious ascetic had said this, Rama could not console him by his words. Then having paid homage unto Rama, and spoken to him and encouraged Raghava. The patriarch ascetic, renouncing the asylum, went away along with his own people. And Rama, having for a time followed the sage who was departing from that place, and having paid him respects, being permitted by them, well pleased, and advised as to what it behoved him to do, came to his quarters, reposing there. Thenceforth Raghava never for a moment left that asylum forsaken by the sages. Raghava having such qualities in his character as were likely to stand the sages in stead, the ascetics that remained behind ever followed Raghava. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.